Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Mandy Brenham here, coming to you live on Facebook. And this is the third episode of The Full-Time Investor, hosted by myself, Mandy Brenham, owner of Solutions Driven Property Management, construction company, and asset acquisitions company. Produced the show today and the last couple episodes by my husband, who's getting better every single time, Larry Brenham. Have had a couple requests for Larry to come on this side of the camera. So depending on his comfort level with being on this side, we'll certainly have him on the show. So here we are today. It is June. Hey, Mr. Producer. I think one of our cameras might have gone sideways. I might have to look at things sideways. June the 6th today, Thursday, June the 6th. I've had some great feedback. I want to just be able to share with you guys, thanking you for watching, for giving me your feedback, for letting me know that you're there. And I'd love to hear from you more. Let me know. Put some comments on here if you're watching live, or if it's not live, just let me know things that you want to hear, things that you want me to talk about. I have a lot of people that tell me they like my energy. You can feel my energy. Well, it's true. So if I can resonate to you, some of the energy that I have inside of me, trust me, I take your energy the same way that I give it back to you. So please, thank you for coming on board and watching, and let me get on with the show. So today I wanted to be able to say what is a full-time investor, which is me. I work full time. I left a job of 40 hours to be able to be an entrepreneur working 80. How do I keep myself going? And how did I position myself to be able to retire from a job, a job, just over broke, okay, to being a full-time investor? And yes, I certainly have bought a lot of assets from there, but really in the numbers game, I wanted to be able to talk to you about various ways that you can become a full-time investor. And the first way that people are full-time investors, they think cash, they think flip, they think, how can I find a house, buy it at low price, bargain dollars, foundation sinking in, asbestos and mold, and maybe it was a fire. And can I flip that and make some money? So you're physically leaving your job to be able to be a flipper, for you to be the one that works with an agent, works with some kind of financer, maybe you have some cash, and you are flipping houses. Okay. And possibly, let's say that you do 2 or 3 of those a year, and you make $40,000 to $80,000 a flip. I think that would be a good range, $40,000 to $80,000 a flip. And you are generating an income for yourself. Now, out of that income, of course, we always say that there's, money to be paid to your accountant, money to be paid to the CRA for taxes on this income that you are earning now in your flipping business. So that is a strategy. You are an investor per se because you're buying in assets, but really you're buying yourself a job. Okay. You've left one job to be overseeing, whether you're doing the work or not, to oversee flips. Okay. Projects. Now, you're doing amazing things for your community. You're buying low value houses and you're bringing them up to beautiful states. They're healthy, clean, a safe and appropriate house for either an end buyer to buy or a tenant to live in. But typically with flipping, you are not keeping that asset. You are moving on to the next one and the next one. Okay. And so it is certainly creating an income for you to be able to leave your job. You're just over broke. Okay. And the harder you work, the more of a return that you're able to make on this job. So it's certainly a great strategy. And in an article within Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine recently, there was how to replace your full-time income. And flipping was certainly one of those, one of the strategies that was highlighted within that magazine. So again, that's Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine, CREW. CREW is what they call it. So what's another strategy that you can use to become a full-time investor, to be able to do this full-time? So another strategy would be that you could do rent to owns. Okay. And we know some phenomenal people in our industry that are killing it in the rent to own industry. So what does that look like as a full-time investor? So if you are doing this full-time, you are finding a tenant buyer, and you're finding an investor, or yourself, you might be the investor. You are finding a property for yourself or the investor to buy, for the tenant buyer to go into. And typically it's a 2 to 4 year rent to own, maybe three years. Let's just use 3 as a round number. And we've got a 3-year rent to own that you are creating quite a high cash flow every month from this tenant buyer buying it, putting down some rent. And I was gonna say, I see a couple comments, but it is what it is. So every month on a rent to own, if you're a full-time investor, you are constantly looking for new tenant buyers, and you're constantly looking for properties that tenant buyer would like to go into. You're matching the two of them up. You're creating quite a high cash flow every month. Rent to owns are certainly known as a high cash flowing investment opportunity. But then at the end of the 3-year term, if all goes well, the tenant buyer buys the property and you don't own it anymore. So this is a very cyclical type of investment style. You're always looking for new ones coming in. It goes over the 3-year term. And at the end of the 3-year term, again, if everything goes right, the tenant buyer buys the house and you're back to square one, looking for new properties. So if you can bring in partners to be able to do that, you could build up a lot more properties. You're always looking for lots of tenant buyers, lots of properties that those tenant buyers go into, and away you go. So you could create a very high cash flow. Just keep in mind that, again, you're owning an asset for 3 years, 3 to 4 years, and then it's gone. So if you're looking for long-term wealth, a rent to own is great for short-term, high income, high cash flow. You're going to have to do it again. And then you're going to have to do it again. And there's the possibility, there's always risks with all of these options, that the tenant buyer doesn't end up buying the property. And so you now own this asset, and you have to decide, what do I do with it? Do I fix it up after the tenants have left and sell it? Do I fix it up and keep it? What does that look like in my portfolio? So rent to own is another option for you to be able to replace your full-time income from your job with some real estate income. What's another option? Wholesaling. Don't we have somebody in our GTA area? Actually, I think he named himself, but you know what? I'm happy to be able to support it because he's killing it. Luc Boron, he is one of the top wholesalers in all of Canada. So what is wholesaling? What is wholesaling? Question mark. Okay. Wholesaling. You are looking for properties that are off market. You are looking for properties that you have a motivated seller. What is a motivated seller? Somebody who needs to sell a house fast because they're leaving the country, because the creditors are calling them, because they've gotten in over their head, because a divorce is just going sideways fast, because their mom and dad have passed away and they're left with this house in an estate situation, and they want to get the everything closed up fast. Maybe it's a homeowner who has let the repairs go too far. They didn't replace the siding, and water came in, and the insulation on the inside, and the drywall on the inside, and there are just so many reasons and so many expenses that people put off, deferred maintenance. Next thing you know, their house is a junk pile, and it truly is. And so a wholesaler will go in and be able to close on this property fast. Will be able to help this seller out and say, look, I'll give this price to you. It's typically a lower price than what would be offered on the true market. And there's many reasons why that would be happening. It would be happening because a wholesaler, Luke, can close on these fast. He has the backup crew. He has the financing. He has the contacts. He has contractors. And he even can place those people into a new house. He can help with finding them a new place to live. I know I've heard him say that before. So lots of different reasons why selling to a wholesaler makes sense for some situations. And so if I was a full-time wholesaler, what would that be looking like? I'm constantly looking for leads all the time. Where do I get my leads? Am I cold calling? Am I knocking on doors? Am I sending out flyers? Am I letting my network know that I'm always buying ugly houses? I buy ugly houses. I pay cash for houses. And once you are able to find and negotiate these houses, there is a wholesale fee. So what is a wholesale? We're going back to this. So you found this distressed property with a distressed owner, and you've negotiated a price that is typically well under market price. But other investors maybe we're not actively looking for this. And so you're able to sell it to another investor. You're able to take it from the price that you've negotiated, and you're able to sell it to an investor who's willing to fix it up and do the renovations to it. And you're leaving still a gap. They're still getting a well under market price, but you're able to make a profit off of that house that you've worked so hard to be able to find. So what you do is you get it under contract and you wholesale the contract to the next person. Okay. It also can be called assigning. You're getting an assignment fee. And so you're making a fee every time that you find one of these properties, negotiate under market rent, under market value, and then you're selling it to maybe an end buyer. Maybe you end up buying it and you do the renovation work to it, and then you end up selling a flipped house that you found via wholesale. And so for every transaction, there is a wholesale fee. You get a fee for every time that you do that, and that is what is your income. That's what's your paycheck. Okay, that's what your paycheck is this wholesale fee. So that's wholesaling in a pretty big nutshell. Maybe I'll talk to Luke, have Luke on here as a full-time investor, a super active full-time investor, and get the down low on that kind of strategy. What's another strategy? The BRRRR strategy. BRRRR: buy, renovate, refinance, and rent. Okay, buy, renovate, refinance, and rent. There's all kinds of different ways we could call that. We could call it buy, renovate, buy. Maybe we'll just stick with the BRRRR method. And a flip to yourself. That's another way that we can call it. Flip to yourself. So you buy it, you renovate it, and then you flip it to the exterior financing. Flip to yourself strategy. BRRRR method is what has gotten myself out of the income that I had from a job. Okay, the BRRRR method. I'm finding properties that I change and add value to. Okay, again, Gary McGowan always taught me those 3 questions. How do I buy this property? How do I change and add value? And what's my exit strategy? So the majority, when we started, Larry and I would buy houses on our own, in our personal name or in a new corporation that we opened, and we would buy the house. Now we're using capital that we had from the equity in our home. We're using capital that we had from selling another rental property that we had. And so we were starting to have some cash. So we would put in the down payment for these properties. And then question number 2 is, how do I change and add value? So Larry and I would go in and we would create a secondary unit, create that basement unit. We would go in and do lipstick renovations to it, new flooring, paint, kitchen, bathroom, whatever that is, but nothing major, no foundation issues, no mold to be having to deal with, things like that. And then we would refinance, which means we call up the bank and we say, hey, bank, we bought a house 6 months ago and we bought it for X. We've done a ton of work to it and we now feel it's worth Y. Could you send out an appraiser to be able to appraise the property to what we believe is the new value? And the bank will then refinance based on the new value, 80% loan to value of the new value. And they honestly give you a check, a big check. So I think the largest check we may have received, I think I have pictures of it, but $120,000 was the lift that we had in a property that we still own in our portfolio. So the big thing about this BRRRR method is that you're almost doing a flip, because you're doing lots of work to the property, but you're keeping it. You are refinancing it and keeping it in your portfolio. So it's not like a rent to own that in 3 years it's gone. It's not like a flip where you do all this work, in 6 months you sell it, it's gone. I'm telling you that a BRRRR is going to stay in your portfolio for a long time. So you're making sure that you're doing work to these properties, that you're the one that's going to be overseeing the management of it. You're going to be the one that's thinking what kind of tenants are going in place. And you're the one saying, do I like the location of this property? Because I'm going to have to be overseeing the management of this asset for a long length of time. So you're looking at a lot of things when you're looking at BRRRR properties. But typically BRRRR properties, you can find vacant if you are able to negotiate a single family home. The family leaves, it's empty, and so you have some benefits to being able to buy single family homes. So that's the BRRRR method. That's another way for you to be able to replace your full-time income with real estate income, for you to be able to become a full-time investor. Buy and hold is just another option. So instead of doing any work to the property, if you've got quite a bit of capital, or you have joint ventures that people are like, hey, Mandy, you're going to be a full-time investor, I'll invest with you. You go now and you're finding buy and hold properties, turnkey properties, beautiful properties. A fellow investor told us about a beautiful triplex, 3 units. They need no work. So it's one of those properties. Yeah, the return on an investment is going to be based on the fact that all of the renovations are done, but yet all of the renovations are done. There's some pros to that as well. Cons are that you're not actually adding any value with your renovations, but the pros is that you don't have to do any work, and this property is good to go. The property is turnkey. You put the money down and the rents are coming in right away. There's no gap in anything. It's fully tenanted. So if you are looking to be an active investor and have instant cash flow, then a turnkey long-term buy and hold property might be something for you. If you're looking for high cash flow quite fast, a rent to own might be something else that you're looking to be able to have. So if you're looking to replace, so there's 2 ways I want to share with you here out of all of these strategies on how to replace your income. There's a little bit of there's more than just a little bit. There's a lot of mindset game that goes on here. Most people go, I make $4,000 a month at my job. Okay, just using some round numbers here. $4,000 a month at my job. I need to have $4,000 a month in rental income to cover my job. And you're like, okay, I get that. I get that you might be able to, that's exactly what it's going to take for you to replace your income. But there's other things that I want you to take into consideration. So if you did a flip, you might make, what did I say, 40 to 80,000. Let's say 80,000. You do a home run property. I don't have my calculator on me right now, but 80,000 divided by $4,000 a month. Okay, you're in this for 20 months. 20 months. That's almost 2 years of income that you have to be able to cover your $4,000 a month. Okay. Are you there, Mr. Producer? Because the camera's still sideways.
What about the camera? It's straight up. It's showing straight.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm looking at you guys sideways, but I hope that I'm straight to you. Anyways, so if you want to replace your income, you've got $4,000 a month. It doesn't necessarily have to be $4,000 of rental income that's going to cover that. If you're doing flips, if you're doing wholesales, you're getting this chunk of money. $5,000 to $10,000 to $20,000, if not a little bit more on a wholesale fee, $40,000 to $80,000 on a flip. So you can kind of see that the numbers are big, but they might not be every 2 weeks. They're definitely not going to be every 2 weeks. It's definitely not going to be monthly. Okay, so how do you balance out the mindset of the transition going from consistency at your job, bi-weekly or monthly. Are you salaried? Are you paid? Like, what's your payroll status? To being full-time real estate investor, that's, I don't know, some months my maintenance is really high. I don't get a lot of cash flow from my properties. Other months, everything's quite quiet, and I get these large cash flow payments. Some months I sell a house. Next thing you know, I got $100 grand. But that doesn't mean that it's $100 grand. Yay, let's go spend it. You're spreading that out over the term for you to be able to understand that cash flow or a wholesale fee is what's going to replace your income, but just not in the same way that a job does. So there's definitely some mental talk that we have to do to make sure that you are okay with the way that your income is going to be paid to you, different than what your job is. So the only other thing I wanted to go over is questions that I get asked all the time is, what podcasts do I listen to? What books do I read? Like, where do I continue to get my knowledge? Okay. Oh, Kelly's asking about volume here, Lair. Oh, volume. Okay. Podcasts. What podcast do I use? Podcast is a pretty cool term these days. If you're not listening to podcasts, if you're not playing a podcast while you're going for a nice long walk or a hike, or in your car driving from location A to location B. You know, my car is a university on wheels. So what is the data that I'm putting into my university to be able to make sure that I'm staying up to date? So the first podcast I listen to often, I just finished a big long episode, is The Truth About Real Estate Investing with Erwin Zito. He talks to top-notch investors, various different strategies, so many different angles of how you can be in the investing world, and not have to be like, well, this is what Mandy says you have to do. Well, it's not. There are so many other strategies for you to be able to take, for you to be able to create an income within real estate, however that looks for you. It doesn't have to be full-time, but it can be full-time. And just like trusted information. So the second one is the Breakthrough Real Estate Podcast with Sandy McKay and Rob Brake. They've been doing this for a long time. I love the growth that they've had from it. You probably listened to one of the first year podcast to what it is today. They are spot on. Again, they've got a variety of investors there giving various different topics, things to be able to think about, and it's across Canada as well. So, you know, if a strategy works here in Ontario, does it mean that it's going to work in BC? Possibly, possibly not. Find your markets, find your communities, make sure that these strategies that these people are teaching you are right for your area. The Right Club has a podcast put on by Sarah Larbi. I actually think that Sarah Larbi has her own podcast as well. And it is a great podcast for Ontario investors, and they talk about like right now in the moment strategies and tips and tricks for you to be able to straighten out your real estate business, to be able to get it more effective and efficient. So the Right Club is a great club to be able to go to. That's in Burlington. And they also have a podcast that goes along with their thing. And the last one that there's so many, and I apologize. There is, I know Glenn Sutherland does one about U.S. investing as a Canadian. That's a phenomenal one. There's a gentleman that is doing one about first responders. So if you're a police or ambulance, there's a podcast specifically for investors within that industry. That's a great one. And Tahini has one that is called FIRE, Females in Real Estate. And Tahini is certainly a well-known name within the real estate investing industry. And it's not just for females, but it's very female focused. You want to learn how to be a female investor in the industry, that's a great podcast to go listen to. So then I also want to share that I have a subscription to Canadian Real Estate Wealth magazine. I think I mentioned it earlier on. Great articles put on by investors, subscribers that there's Paul D'Ambrosio, Scott Dillingham, And so Rachel Oliver, I know, is in there. Monica Jazik's in here. So again, trusted people in the industry that you're listening to. What books am I reading? Talk about Monica and Vaughn Jazik. The Real Estate Mistakes. Kind of a fun book to be able to read. It's a quick read, but it certainly goes over some been there, done that, and learn from my mistakes. Don't do as I did. Read this book and you won't make some of those mistakes. From Renos to Riches, I don't know if you can buy this book anymore, but Ian Zabo is a wealth of knowledge. He's got some great practical tips in here on renovating. Again, this is From Renos to Riches. Joint Ventures in Real Estate, Don Campbell. This is like a Bible. It has so many great tools and tips for you to be able to know what to look for in a joint venture and what to be if you want to be an active joint venture. Okay, so this is for both sides of a joint venture to be able to read. Tony Robbins, Money Master the Game. It's just a great mindset tool. I think you should be having wealth on your mind a lot to be able to make sure that why are you doing this in the hard times. I'm not saying that you need to constantly be, money, but a lot of people forget that that is one of the purposes that we're doing this for. Richard Dolan, The Wealth Mastery Playbook, got that from Rain, from Acre. Another one by Don Campbell, just because he's such a trusted resource within our industry, Real Estate Investing in Canada. And what is it, Don? Chapter 5. Let me just check it out here. Chapter 5. He's only said it to us, I don't know how many times over the last 2 years, I'm going to say, because I've only been a RAIN member for a year and a half now. Look at this, page 41. Because I quote this. Oh no, maybe this isn't the one. Real Estate Investing Cycles. Oh, I brought out the wrong book with me. But it's chapter 5, what to look for in the industry, what's changing, interest rates, the government, all those kind of things, the stress test, how it affects you, and how you can maneuver around it to create your real estate business. Hold by Gary Keller is a great book to be able to. It's investor focused. It's almost real estate agent investor focused. I know he has a few of these books called Hold. Anyways, they all look like this. This one's for investors. Here's a big one. The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, Darren Hardy. I know a few people right now, and maybe I'll start myself, is Darren Hardy is doing a 90-day run every day challenge, for 90 days run. Darren Hardy has been a mentor of Larry and I for a long time. We go back to a lot of the words that he shared and spoke with us. So this one's called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and it really just talks about the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. And it's not the same. Being an entrepreneur and being a full-time employee, you don't have the same mindset games. And this book is key to being able to set yourself up correct for the ups and downs, the roller coaster that being an entrepreneur can be. It's a great book. And then lastly, I've been starting to read this to my kids, is the $5 Million book by Stefan Aarnio. I know he said, I listened to him the other day, he wanted to write 20 books in his, I don't know if that's in a lifetime or in the next 2 years kind of thing. But you know what? This is a great book, a great reminder for how to think about money, where to look for money, where to raise capital. The only other one that is essential in my library of wealth books right now is Think and Grow Rich. And I did lend that copy to somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but I know that they're enjoying it, and it's a very inexpensive book. But if you haven't read it in a while, read it in a while. And then the last one is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Just understanding how you want to put your mindset towards something and then take actions every day to be able to get towards that one big goal. So that's it for me today. Next week, I'll certainly put it out there because I see her on here, but that Kelly Caldwell, one of the newest full-time investors, is going to be joining us to be able to share in the moment right now. She is transitioning from a job into full-time investing. And we're going to talk to her about her emotions, what's going on in her head, what are the easy stuff, what's exciting, but yet what's hard, and what is on her mind, what's daunting, what's scary in the moment, to be able to understand what the transition is to go from part-time investor, casually on the side, to a full-time investor. So that's going to be next week, right here on the Full-Time Investor. I thank you again for watching, everybody. I thank you for your time. Please ask me any questions. I'm happy to be able to send you out a message and make sure that if you have any questions that might be lingering in your mind, that we get answered for you. So again, thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next week on the Full-Time Investor. Mandy Brenham signing off.